I will confess something to you that only a few women really understand. It is not your body that keeps him awake at night and makes him think of you. It is neither your photos nor your sweet messages, not even the memory of your most passionate moments together. What truly does not let him go is the intrigue, this feeling of not knowing whether he still has you or has already lost you. And it is exactly this feeling that becomes a constant thought, an echo that reverberates in his head. Because men are not obsessed with what they understand, but with what they cannot decipher. Here lies the truth that hardly anyone tells you. The more predictable you are, the less he thinks of you. The more emotional mystery you radiate, not games, but calmness, silence and depth, the stronger his need becomes to understand you. That is where the emotional connection begins, the one that does not fade with time. But for that, there is an intelligent way of speaking, a way of planting little seeds in his mind, a way that neither begs, nor explains, nor seeks attention, but inspires reflection. And here comes the question into play, the one I want to talk to you about. The one question that, if you ask it at the right moment, will circle in his mind all night long. Imagine this, it is late, the house is quiet, he lies in the dark. And suddenly he remembers that question you asked him. It was not a superficial question, not "What are you thinking?" or "What's wrong?" It was something deeper. Something that touched a chord in him he did not even know existed. This question made him see himself through your eyes. It showed him a side of himself that only you can recognize. And now, in the darkness, his mind plays with this memory, turns it over and over, searches for meaning, wonders what was behind your gaze when you spoke it. Because a predictable woman is forgotten. But a woman who makes him think, who gently challenges him to see himself differently, that woman becomes a puzzle his mind must solve. When you radiate this emotional mystery, you are not distant, you are complete. You are like a book that promises a captivating story but does not reveal all the chapters at once. You give him just enough so that he wants to keep reading, so that he wonders what comes next. Your silence is not empty, it is full of meaning. Your calmness is not indifference, it is security. Your depth is not complication, it is inner fullness. And this question you ask, at the perfect moment, does not seek an immediate answer. It wants to nest in his mind, grow there, gain significance hour by hour. It becomes the key that opens doors he did not know existed, because the next day, while he works or drives, you appear again in his thoughts, not because you contacted him, but because you planted a seed that is now taking root. And while he tries to understand you, he understands himself a little better. That is the connection that lasts, long after physical passion fades. That is the invisible magnet that pulls him back, even when his mind tells him he should forget you. Because you touched something deeper than his desire. You awakened his intellectual and emotional curiosity. And that, my dear friend, is what turns fleeting interest into a true obsession. Before I reveal it to you, you must understand why it works. Men mostly live in logic, not in feeling. They want to keep control, give quick answers, avoid conversations that confront them. But if you move something inside them that they cannot control, if you make them question their feelings, then a gap arises, and in that gap arises the constant thought. That is why this question is not about forcing attention, but about making him think, even if he tries to forget you. Because every time someone triggers self-reflection in another person, they leave traces. Whether it was a day, a week, or a year, words that reach the subconscious never disappear. This question does exactly that. It activates curiosity, nostalgia, and doubt. 3 emotions that connect him to you even when you are not there. Therefore, when you speak with him, do not confront him, do not pressure him. Look at him calmly, smile slightly, and say it, without explanation, without justifying yourself, without waiting for an immediate answer. Because the power of this question does not lie in the moment itself, but in everything that happens afterward. The way you say it is just as important as the question itself. Men are trained to recognize hidden intentions, to read between the lines, to protect themselves from manipulation or neediness. That is why your attitude must be completely emotionally detached. You must not radiate anxious energy, not a look that says, "I need your answer." No body tension that reveals you have been waiting for this moment for days. He will feel it, even if he does not see it. Confrontation activates his defense mechanism. When you confront a man, when you corner him with direct questions like, "Why didn't you call? What are we actually? Where is this going between us?" His brain immediately reacts with defense. He builds walls, goes on the defensive, looks for escape routes, and prepares standard answers to get out of the situation as quickly as possible. In this state, nothing you say really reaches him. Pressure has the same effect, only worse. If you push him, insist, or your body signals, "I want an answer now," you achieve only one thing, that he wants to run away. Men are programmed to distance themselves from emotional pressure because they perceive it as a loss of freedom, as a threat to their autonomy. And when they feel that, they withdraw, they close up. Even if there were real feelings before, pressure can destroy everything. Look at him calmly, with a slight smile, and let go. Here begins the art of it all. Your gaze must not be intense, not pleading, not challenging. It must be calm, as if you are completely at peace with yourself, as if this question simply popped into your mind without weight, without hidden intention. When you look at him with this serenity, you convey security. You tell him without words, "I need nothing from you. I am just curious." Your gaze must have a special quality, as if you were looking at him from a higher emotional place, not arrogantly, but from inner peace, as if you had already made peace with what was, what is, and what will be, as if you were free from drama, fear, and neediness. This calmness is magnetic because it is rare. Most people go through life with emotional unrest. When someone appears with true calmness, you feel it. It attracts, and then that slight smile, not big, not nervous, not flirtatious, a barely noticeable smile, a smile that suggests you know something he does not know. A smile with a touch of mystery, nostalgia, something that cannot be put into words. The smile of someone who has lived, learned, and grown. The smile of someone who no longer plays old games. This smile has power. It disarms. Because when someone expects confrontation and instead encounters genuine but mysterious warmth, his brain cannot process it immediately. He remains in a state of curiosity. What does this smile mean? What is she thinking about? Why is she so calm? And exactly in that moment, in this state of openness, you ask the question, without warning, without preparation, without unnecessary context. You say it as if you were throwing a feather into the wind, light, natural, without knowing where it will land, without explanation, without justification, without waiting for an immediate answer. That is the hardest part. We humans have an almost compulsive need to fill silence, to explain our words, to make sure the other person understood us correctly. But that is exactly what destroys the magic of this technique. If you explain, if you say, "I was just thinking," or "I don't know if this makes sense, but pick," you take away all the power from the question. Explanations betray insecurity. They show that you are not sure yourself of what you are doing, and that immediately pulls him out of introspection and puts him in a superior position. She is insecure. She wants something from me, number. The question must exist on its own, without crutches, without context, without weakening, like a work of art that needs no explanation, like a poem that everyone interprets in their own way. This ambiguity, this mystery, is exactly what makes him think. Do not justify yourself. Do not say, "I was just curious," or "I asked others the same," or "I read that somewhere." Every justification is a confession that you believe you did something that needs defense. If you yourself do not trust your question, how should it touch him then? You cannot fake confidence. If you speak the question with genuine trust in its value, he feels it. And that gives it weight. The hardest thing of all, do not expect an immediate answer. Do not just stand there staring at him, waiting. Do not fill the silence with more words. Do not say, "And? What do you think? Don't you want to say anything?" Because the moment you do, you destroy the tension you have built. Remember, this question is like planting a seed. Seeds do not grow because you constantly watch or push them. They grow in darkness, in silence, in their own time. This question needs space to germinate in his mind, time for him to process it, think about it, while driving, in the shower, at night in bed. If you wait for an immediate answer, you force him into a superficial reaction. But if you ask the question, and then, physically or emotionally withdraw, you give it space to sink deeply into his psyche. You give him the space to wonder, why did she ask me that? What did she mean by it? What do I mean to her? What did she see in me? After asking the question, you can pause briefly, 2, 3 seconds, as if giving him the chance to say something if he wishes, and then just move on to another topic. Or better yet, say goodbye naturally. "I have to go. See you later." Or just a slight smile, and you leave. This quiet withdrawal completes the perfect circle, because now the question hangs in the air, unresolved, without explanation, without closure. And the human brain hates open ends, unresolved questions, unexplained mysteries. So his mind will keep returning to that moment, analyzing it, trying to understand, seeking meaning. And every time he does, he thinks of you. And that is exactly the goal. Have you ever wondered what you really feel when I am not there? That is the question. Read it again. Let it resonate in your own mind before you even think of using it. Because this is not an ordinary question. It is not a disguised, "Do you miss me?" or "Do you think of me?" It is something much deeper, much more strategic, much more impactful. So simple, and yet so powerful. The beauty of this question lies precisely in its apparent simplicity. It contains no complicated words, no convoluted structure, no demanding vocabulary. Anyone could say it, yet very few truly understand why it works. And even fewer have the emotional strength to use it correctly. This simplicity deceives. It seems harmless, innocent, like casual curiosity. But beneath this calm surface lie layers upon layers of psychological depth. It is like an iceberg. The visible part is small, but the invisible beneath is enormous. That is what makes it so powerful. It does not trigger defense mechanisms because it does not seem to be a threat. It does not sound like reproach, not like neediness, not like demand. It sounds thoughtful, like genuine interest, like a search for something deeper than just, "Do you like me?" or "Do you want to be with me?" Because it forces him to look at himself beyond ego and pride. Here lies the true genius of this question. You are not asking him to think about you, you are asking him to think about himself. You are leading him into self-reflection, into the depths of his own emotions, into areas he may never have consciously explored. Men, especially in emotional relationships, often live on autopilot. They feel yes, but they rarely analyze what they feel, why they feel it, or what it means. They act out of feeling without really processing it. That is easier, more comfortable, less vulnerable. But this question breaks through autopilot. It forces him to press pause. It forces him to ask himself, what do I really feel when she is not there? Do I feel relief, emptiness, indifference, restlessness? And to answer that, he must be brutally honest with himself. Here begins the true power. He must go beyond ego and pride, because the ego tells him, you don't need her. You're fine alone. Don't give her that power. Pride says, show no weakness, don't let her see anything. But this question puts him in a situation where he can no longer answer from ego. He must speak from a deeper, real, authentic place. Because the question is not, "Dan, do you miss me?" To which the ego can easily respond with an indifferent, sometimes. The question is, have you ever wondered what you really feel when I am not there? And that word "really" is decisive. It suggests there is a gap between what he says he feels and what he actually feels. It suggests that he may not have been completely honest with himself, and that creates inner tension, a cognitive dissonance that his mind wants to resolve. He is left with a restless head, trying to understand whether he misses you out of habit or because he emotionally needs you. This is the perfect trap, but not a manipulative one. It is only an invitation to truly recognize himself. Because there is a huge difference between missing someone out of habit and emotionally needing someone. Most people never become aware of this difference. Missing out of habit is easy to explain, easy to rationalize, comfortable. Of course, I sometimes think of her. We spent a lot of time together. She was part of my daily life. That is superficial, harmless, safe. It requires no real self-insight. But emotionally needing someone, that is something completely different. That means there is something in you that fills a space in him that no one else can fill, that your presence or your absence truly changes his emotional state, that you are not just habit, but essential. And admitting that, even just to himself, is vulnerable, it is frightening, it is powerful. Now his mind is trapped in this distinction. He tries to grasp, am I simply used to her? Or is there more behind it? What exactly do I feel when I realize she is no longer there? Is it just fleeting nostalgia or a real emptiness? These are not simple questions. They require time, reflection, honesty. And the more he thinks about it, the more he thinks of you. Because to understand himself, he must think of you, your presence, your absence, your moments. Every time he does, you take space in his mind, in his consciousness, in his emotional world. And the best part, you do not answer. You let silence do its work. That cannot be emphasized enough. The silence after this question is not only important, it is crucial. It is the difference between a question he thinks about for 5 minutes and one that occupies him for days, weeks, or months. If you ask the question and then remain silent, you create a void. And nature hates a void. The human mind hates a void. When a void arises in a conversation, especially after something emotionally charged, the brain automatically tries to fill it. It wants to create meaning, understand, resolve. But if you do not fill this void, not with explanations, not with your own answer, not with trivial chatter that dilutes the moment, he is left alone with this space. And exactly then his mind begins to fill it himself, with thoughts, questions, analyses, feelings. The silence communicates something powerful about you, that you can hold the emotional tension, that you are not afraid of silence, that you feel comfortable in uncertainty, that you possess the inner strength to ask a deep question and then simply wait. Very few people can do that. This rare ability impresses him as deeply as the question itself. This pause, this moment when you say nothing, is the moment when his mind begins to repeat the question over and over again. The human brain has a fascinating trait. When something remains unresolved, especially something emotionally charged, the mind compulsively returns to it again and again. It is like a song that gets stuck in your head, only much deeper, much more meaningful. In this silent pause, something magical happens. The question stops being just a sentence. It becomes a presence, almost a tangible energy that fills the space between you. And because you did not explain it, did not defend it, did not dilute it, it remains pure, focused, powerful. His mind hears it again. Have you ever wondered what you really feel when I am not there? And again, and again. Not because you repeat it, but because his own mind plays it, tries to process it, give it meaning, find an answer that feels true. Each repetition is like a wave striking a rock. The first wave does little, But wave after wave, again and again, the rock begins to change, to erode, to form. That is exactly how this question works in his psyche. Not with a sudden bang, but with a quiet, steady effect that deepens over time. The longer you keep the space of silence open, the deeper the effect penetrates. Because he cannot simply ignore the question, he cannot pretend he didn't hear it. It lingers between you, hovering, unanswered, demanding, and his mind, by its nature, will keep returning to it until it finds some kind of resolution. Not because you manipulate him, but because you lead him to his own awareness. That is a crucial difference, and this method is not manipulation in the negative sense. You are not deceiving him, you are not lying, you are not playing dishonestly with his feelings. You are simply asking an honest question that invites true reflection. Manipulation would be saying something false in order to provoke a certain reaction. Manipulation would be pretending to be someone you are not in order to get something. Manipulation would be using his insecurities against him to control him. But this is something else. This is an invitation to authenticity, an invitation to meet oneself. You are not turning on a new feeling in him. You are only making visible what was already there, like a lamp illuminating a dark corner, the space, the objects, the truth. They were always there. You are simply helping him finally see them. You are leading him to his own inner world, to his true emotions. And this is not a trick, it is a gift, because most people go through life without ever truly knowing themselves, without questioning their emotions, without examining their inner stories. You give him the chance to understand himself, to recognize his feelings, to encounter his truth. And if in this process he realizes that he misses you, that he needs you, that you mean more to him than he wanted to admit, then it is not because you made him feel that way. It is because he has always felt it. He just finally recognizes it now. And no one forgets the person who makes them reflect on themselves. That is a deep truth about human nature that very few truly understand. We remember those who make us feel good, yes. We remember those who make us laugh, who attract us physically, who entertain us. But all those memories are superficial, easy to replace. But the person who makes us reflect on ourselves in a new way, who leads us into depths we have never explored before, who opens doors in our consciousness we didn't know existed, that person leaves an indelible mark. They become part of our own story of self-discovery. And that is unforgettable. It is like the difference between a tourist visiting a country and an archaeologist discovering something old and valuable within it. The tourist has a nice experience and moves on, but the archaeologist has unearthed something that changes the understanding of that place forever. You don't want to be the tourist in his life. You want to be the archaeologist who uncovers truths he needed to see. When someone makes you reflect on yourself, truly reflect, not superficially, but deeply and honestly, a powerful connection is created. Every time he returns to that place of self-reflection, you will be there in his memory. Every time he examines his own feelings, he will remember that you were the first who invited him to do so. Every time he wonders what he really feels for something or someone, a part of him will think of the question you asked. You will not only become a memory, but a catalyst for his emotional growth. And that is not forgotten. That cannot be easily replaced, because you were not simply a pleasant experience. You were a moment of transformation, a turning point in his relationship with himself. That is how real attraction is created, not from lack, but from the mind. Most people try to create attraction through lack. They disappear so the other misses them, they create artificial scarcity, they play hard to get. And yes, these techniques can work in the short term because they trigger the fear of loss, a powerful emotion. But attraction based on lack is fragile, reactive, external. It depends on you keeping your distance, staying rare, never fully available. And that is exhausting because you constantly have to control how much presence you give, how much time you spend, how much you share. The attraction that arises from the mind is completely different. It is internal, proactive, steady, doesn't depend on whether you are physically present or not. It depends on the fact that you have taken a place in his mental world, in his inner emotional landscape. When you create attraction from the mind, it doesn't matter whether you are near or far, available or not. You are already inside. You are part of his thinking, part of his self-understanding, part of his emotional process. And that cannot simply be erased by physical distance or meeting other people. Mental attraction is deep because it goes beyond physical desire and superficial emotions. It touches identity, self-understanding, consciousness. And those are the most enduring areas of human experience, not from the desire to be remembered, but from the wisdom of being unforgettable. That is the difference between neediness and strength, between hope and certainty, between begging for a place in his mind and knowing that you already have it. If you wish to be remembered, you are in a position of dependence. You expect something from him. You rely on his thoughts, his decisions, his will. That is a weak, vulnerable, anxious position. But if you act from the wisdom of being unforgettable, you are in a completely different place. You are not waiting for him to remember you. You know that he will. You are not asking for space in his head. You know you already occupy it. You are not nervous about the outcome. You are secure in your effect. This security does not come from arrogance or illusion, but from understanding the psychological principles that carry this dynamic. It comes from knowing that you have done something that fundamentally changed the connection, that you left something in him that cannot easily be undone. The wisdom of being unforgettable means understanding that you don't have to be the most beautiful, the funniest, or the most available. You must be the one who makes him think, who makes him feel, who makes him question, who opens doors in his consciousness that remain open long after you are gone. This wisdom gives you peace, serenity, security, and that alone is attractive. Because when you are not desperate to be remembered, when you are not desperately trying to occupy his mind, you paradoxically become even more unforgettable. Your energy changes, your presence changes, and he feels it. That means acting from a place of true inner strength. Not power over him, but power within yourself. Not control over his emotions, but mastery over your own. Not manipulation of his mind, but deep understanding of how true human connection works. When you ask that question from this state, from wisdom, calm, and the certainty that you are already unforgettable, everything changes. The question takes on a different weight. The silence afterwards a different quality. The effect becomes exponentially stronger because he is not only responding to the words you say, he is responding to your entire energy, to the confidence you radiate, to the depth you embody. And exactly that is what creates true, lasting, meaningful attraction. Not the superficial kind that fades with time, not the kind based on games or cheap techniques, but the kind that arises because you are truly extraordinary, someone who operates on another level, who understands the deep truths of human connection and applies them with integrity and wisdom. That is the attraction that remains, the attraction that transforms, the attraction that makes him think of you not just all night, but far beyond. If this video helped you understand the power of your calm and your words, subscribe so you don't miss anything. Give it a like, share it with a friend who should hear it, and write me in the comments what you think about this question. And if you would like to additionally support this channel, join the membership. You will get priority in the comments and access to exclusive content that I prepare with my whole heart.